Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, amongst others elsewhere, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing them all up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. This week I'm back up aboard Poem carrying on with her refit. But before we get to that, I have to make a rather heartbreaking announcement, at least for me, and that's that I've had to abandon the stays aboard Poem for this summer. I just can't manage it. Some of you may have seen it coming. In fact, some of you may have foreseen it for quite some time. I'm going deeper and deeper into debt every week and falling behind, and there's no way at this point that I could be ready to have guests aboard. I'm very disappointed, and I've contacted over the last couple of weeks all those chosen to stay aboard, and they've all been tremendously generous and graceful about it, and I should add supportive. So it's a huge disappointment for me. It's something that I really felt was kind of part of the feel of the show and the boats, and tribute to the gift Lloyd made to me of the boat. And we'll do something like that, but it just won't be this summer. I again still will be cruising for much of the summer and spending much of that time in Vancouver. Poem will not be joining me. Poem will remain in Genoa. I will return from my cruising early to be able to do the final work that I need to get Poem ready to take both to the Victoria Boat Festival here in Victoria on Labor Day, and as well I have been accepted into the Port Townsend Boat Festival in Port Townsend, Washington State, which is a huge honor, and I want Poem to be at her very best for that. So Poem will be ready and going to both those festivals. Excuse me. And then actually I'll be living aboard Poem in this marina while I do some serious work to Geordie next year. Anyway, so I just had to let you all know about that, and that poses a bit of a complication, and that's to do with the one person who was coming aboard, Tim Buckman. For those of you who remember, Owen and I rather teased him badly during a beer of the week, and as a result I offered him the very first stay aboard. And worse than that, I started a little GoFundMe to help support it. And now that he's not coming, I need to figure out how to repay all of you for your kind donation to help get him aboard. Some are easy because I know who they are, for instance, myself and Owen and Lloyd. But I only have first names of those of you who have donated, so please contact me and I will arrange a full refund for your kind support. Anyway, enough of the doom and gloom. Let's get to work. There we go. Well, that's about half what I need. If you're new to the show, I actually mark the grain on every single bung in advance, thereby guaranteeing I don't make a mistake in the installation, because sometimes I'm installing in low light or difficult conditions and it's hard to see. It's always so horrible having just that one bung that's not aligned properly. And off we go. Okay. Okay, so time to cut all these bungs off, and normally I would use my flush saw and cut them pretty flush with the surface. However, there are tons and tons of them. It would take forever to do that, plus it would be very awkward to get in around all this stuff. So I'm going to chisel them off. Now, here's where the risk is. If the blade of the chisel, the tip of the chisel, is too close to the work surface, it's possible that you'll catch the grain and it'll take off into the wood. In other words, the natural grain of the piece of wood that made the bung is going in that direction. As a result, the bung will now be below the surface of the work, and the bung will have to be replaced, which is quite a drag because they're glued. So the trick is to make sure that the cutting edge of the chisel isn't hard against the work surface, but up a bit. And you can simply do that by rocking it up on the bevel. And that'll mean that if you aren't cutting in a direction where the grain is falling into the wood, it won't fall all the way into the wood, and you still can save the bung. So it's a little stressful, but it's so much quicker. Now I am going to use my hand for a hammer for this. It's very lightweight using it. Okay, so that one was just about flat, so there was no problem at all. Nice and flat. So far, so good. Okay, so this one, the grain actually came up out of the wood. So I can actually now put the tip of the chisel closer to the work and make the same cut, because I know that it's going to cut up and out of the wood, and it'll just mean less sanding. Same thing here. Beauty. Now, of course, this technique does mean for more sanding, but it's going to be so much sanding going on here anyway, it hardly matters. Okay then, it being after 5, I'll wait till tomorrow to sand these. But now I can put the sealant in here because that's nice and quiet, and it's a bit complicated. First thing I'm going to do is blow out all the seams, make sure there's no dust in there, because I'm going to lay a bond release tape in the bottom of this seam. More on that in just a minute. All right, so as I've described before, you don't really want a three-sided seal, in other words, a three-sided bond. The point being, if these planks were to move and the sealant that was in there was adhered to both planks plus the structural bulkhead behind, then the sealant couldn't shrink as the planks shrunk. In other words, it wouldn't elongate very well because it's stuck to the back. So what'll happen is it very likely will tear off one of the sides here, and it'll be a failed seal. So the idea of a bond breaking tape is you basically buy 3M pinstriping and you lay it in the bottom of the back, and the sealant won't stick to this. Now, here comes the confession. This is 1/4 inch. I forgot that that's all I was able to get, and of course the seams are 3/16. There is no way I can get these to sit in the back here. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not entirely proud of it, but I'm not at all worried, is seal these without a bond breaking tape. And the reason I'm willing to take that risk is because this wood is as dry as it's ever going to be in its entire life, because it's been indoors in this shed for all this time. It will only get more humid, therefore it will only get bigger, which means the sealant will be compressed rather than stretched, and the three-sided bond isn't a problem in that case. Is that a rationalization? No, I think it's valid. I think it's valid. So I'm just gonna pump the sealant straight in. I gotta get it. I got a timeline thing. I gotta. All right then, the sealant of choice today is Sikaflex 295 UV, the significantly costlier and more effective distant cousin of Sikaflex 291, the ubiquitous black goo in a tube. The trick being, and if you've been watching for a while, you've heard me say it before, are these two letters right here, ultraviolet. And this product is substantially more UV resistant than 291, which now I believe, or I will not use it anywhere the sun can ever get at it. It's either underwater, under wood, or in a place the sun's never going to get it. This stuff is remarkably good. It's really thick and sticky, it's hard to tool, and it's very expensive, but it does a job, and I think that's worth it. Okay, so nothing much to do now but start to fill these seams. So I'm going to start with the planks themselves and go around the edge later. I don't know. You'll see I have a little tooling tool here that might make my life easier. I've never had tremendous success with these things. Oh, okie dokie. Well, that 295 is the thickest, stickiest goop you're ever going to have to deal with, but it's good stuff. Anyway, it looks terrible just now, but it's going to be just fine tomorrow when it sets up and I can sand it. Really looking forward to getting that done and getting some oil on here. Some of you will remember this abandoned through-hull drain for the sink when I moved it down to here. It's time to plug it. Let's go cut a plug. Okay, so I'm going to drill a plug out of this yellow cedar with a hole saw, with the internal diameter being the size of the hole. Now I've chucked it up in the drill press because I want to do this without the pilot drill so I don't have a hole in the middle of my plug. I very much doubt the drill press will be able to go very far through this, but once I've cut a trough, I can finish it up with the hand drill. Yeah, that's about it. Anyway, that's fine because now I can actually use the hand drill and just drop it back in the trough. And there we go. Now I did actually sand a nice taper on that plug, but due to my inability to use the GoPro properly, it shot out of sequence, and this is the clip I got for that. But I can assure you the plug is properly tapered. And a little bit of a taper here. All right, then a little epoxy in here. And a little epoxy on the bung. And in it goes. And good morning. Well, it's time to clean up these bulkheads. Don't they look charming as they are? Well, this involves a lot of sanding. Different kinds of sanding, different tools, different techniques, but it's all sanding. Okay, with all that easy stuff done, now it's on to the real work, and that's sanding out the seams here. And what I do, I've made a sanding block, and I've sanded a small round over on it, so that when I take sandpaper and sand it in this double V, I'll end up with a nice concave sealant in the bottom of it, but I'll be able to have nice clean wood on the sides of the joint. So this is just labor intensive. It just is. And if I bring you in to have a look, you can see that now we just have sealant in the bottom of the V-groove, whereas here it's all over the place. Okay, I'm just gonna keep doing this for another, well, couple of hours. All right, back in the aft cabin, we have to talk about the sole some more. This 3/4 inch plywood is not as stiff as I would have liked. So what's happening is, especially the narrow bit through the middle has more flex in it than I'm happy with. And as it's the main walking route through the boat, what I'm going to do is pull up these center sections, just like this. And look at that, nice dry bilge. Anyway, and put some ledgers in here. In other words, some more support. It won't really be ledgers. I guess they're actually going to be called beams. So I'm going to put them through here, and I'm going to do them in white oak so they're nice and strong without taking up too much space. So this project begins by fastening down all the existing sole. And the reason for that is because I sat it on this foam. That's great, it's nice and resilient, but depending on where you're standing, it's going to be in a different position. So I got to make sure it all is fairly tight on the foam so that when I actually put the extra structure in, everything will stay flush. Anyway, this is something I've had to do for a while. I just haven't got around to it yet. And before we get too much dirt in here, let's get some bungs in. Ouch. Not quite sure how that happened. Dang it. Yeah, that actually totally sucks. Anyways, just touching in the veneer and I can probably stain that out. It'll be just fine. Okay. Okay, so this will also get the foam gasket. And we'll just lay that right on there like that. And lay this right in here. Look at that. I'm not using my hand as a hammer. And just to make sure it's nicely in place, I'm going to put a clamp on it. Now I'm also going to drive some 2-inch stainless steel screws in through here at an angle, and which will pick through the floor beam into this new structural piece. Now that's pretty solid. I'll do that to all of them and we're home free. There we go. That has a whole new feel. Fantastic. Love it. Now just to sand these down, get something on there and tie them up. Well, good morning, and time for sanding inside the boat, which I absolutely adore. I have done some dust management, so hopefully that'll work out well. All right, so this just needs a very light sanding and another coat of Varathane, and that will be 4, so I think that'll be plenty. So let's get to it. welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week, coming to you this week from the cozy undercover cockpit of MV Zephyrus, and that is largely because it is scorching hot here this afternoon, and the bridge deck of MV Geordie, without its cover, which some of you are fond of and some of you are less so, is not currently present, and it is intolerable to be up there. Let's get straight to the beer. Now, this is very special. This is from Small Gods Brewing, and it's the Rascal King IPA. And to be fair, I've had a few of these already on recommendation of my very good friends directly opposite aboard sailing vessel Pinot. This is a spectacular beer brewed local here in Sydney, British Columbia, and it's quite possibly my favorite hazy and approaching my favorite beer. Anyway, let's have a sip and share it all with you. That has everything I want in a hazy IPA. It's just enough hazy tang, just enough hoppiness, just enough. Oh, anyway, it's fantastic. Okay, let's get straight to the paperwork. Last week's winner of a Travels with Geordie t-shirt is Mac Cam, M-A-C-C-A-M. Congratulations, Mac. Get a hold of me and we'll make sure you get your t-shirt. Cheers. I'd like to thank 3 Patreons that have come aboard recently. They are Dan May, Knut Skomerdal, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. I did actually look it up. And David Meisner. Thank you ever so much, all 3, for coming aboard. I'm very, very grateful. And I also want to send out a great thanks to PayPal supporter Michael Saffold, who I have mentioned before, but he is a hero supporter. Thank you ever so much, Michael, for your continued support. Cheers. Oh my gosh. Well, straight to the word of the week. And well, with this week's disappointing announcement, I was tempted to use the word disappointed, but you know what? That is just too dark and gloomy. So I'm going to yet again use the word grateful, because I feel so much gratitude all the time to do with this show. I'm grateful for the kindness and the support I had from the people that were disappointed that they couldn't come aboard, and I'm grateful to all of you every week for tuning in and watching this. And I think even though we're not going to be able to have people aboard Poem this summer, Poem is still a great asset to the show, and we'll be able to do something fun in the future. So again, grateful. You know what to do with it. See you next week. Cheers. Now this is the smallest tri-cabin monk I have ever seen. Sunshine at 26 feet. This is 4 feet shorter than Lueda. Beautiful.